Sadly for Errol, it was still a hard, cruel world. On the verge of recognition at last, his nomination for the Oscar was mysteriously withdrawn.
Hollywood sold perfection, but behind the tuxedos and diamonds were raids at midnight, courtroom showdowns, and hotel doors that never should have opened. The posters promised elegance. The nights told a different story. Tonight, 14 icons step off the pedestal and into the mess, swashbucklers who outran the truth, sweethearts the studios couldn't control, and legends who turned their vices into currency. Some beat the headlines, others became them. By the end, the golden age won't look so golden, and one name will blindside you more than the rest. Ready? Errol Flynn. He didn't just play the charming rogue, he lived like one. The gossip columns followed him from yacht decks to courtrooms, turning every rumor into a cliffhanger. To fans, he was the embodiment of adventure. To studios, he was a one-man PR wildfire no memo could contain. Flynn understood the economy of scandal. He wore the headlines like a second costume, doubling down on swashbucklers and smirks that made danger look glamorous. The more untamable he seemed off-screen, the more magnetic he felt on it, and audiences kept paying to watch the myth move. Behind the curtain, the bills came due. Friendships frayed, call sheets slipped, and managers learned to sleep with a phone on the pillow. He could deliver when the cameras rolled, but the nights between takes were where the legend sprinted ahead of the man. What made him different wasn't just excess, it was timing. In an era obsessed with spotless images, Flynn sold a beautiful mess, and the marketplace proved it would always choose a good story over a neat one. He became proof that charisma can outrun control, at least for a while. That's the golden age bait and switch, polish in the poster, turbulence in the margins. If Flynn was the handsome hurricane, the next name shows what happens when the storm doesn't blow over, even when a jury says it should. Roscoe "Fatty" Arbuckle. He was one of Hollywood's first supernovas, until a hotel party became a national trial by headline. Rumor outran evidence in hours, and the country demanded a villain before a judge heard a word. Fame wasn't a shield. It was a lightning rod that drew every accusation to the tallest target. 3 trials later, a jury issued an apology so rare it should have rewritten the story. It didn't. Exhibitors pulled his films, studios distanced themselves, and audiences learned the plot twist too late to care. Official innocence is paper, public innocence is weather. The scandal taught the industry to prefer clean optics over complicated truth. Risk managers replaced champions, and silence replaced strategy. Hollywood didn't just abandon a star, it rehearsed a system for future crises. For Arbuckle, the sentence was exile without bars. He tried to work under aliases, tried to rebuild, but the marquee never forgot his name. The quiet that followed felt less like peace and more like erasure. The playbook was born. Protect the brand, not the person. And in the sound era, that playbook would collide with a man whose off-screen storms kept pace with his on-screen steel. Oh, before we go on, I will be posting more videos like this, so please like, subscribe, and turn on the bell so you don't miss the next deep dive from Golden Hollywood Uncovered. Okay, on to the next. Humphrey Bogart. On screen, he was granite. Off-screen, the edges could spark. Drinks, jealousy, and late-night blow-ups with Mayo Method turned private storms into public weather reports. The tabloids christened them the Battling Bogarts, and the nickname stuck to every door they opened. Bogart didn't hunt scandal, but he didn't outrun it either. The myth of the hard-bitten loner bled into real life until the man in the mask blurred. When people believe your roles, they start scripting your evenings too. Then a different chemistry arrived, Lauren Bacall, and the fuse burned faster. One great love took shape as another burned down, and the audience watched the crossfade in real time. Stardom can survive turmoil. Marriages don't always get the memo. Through the noise, the work stayed bulletproof. Directors learned that if they kept the cameras rolling, he'd deliver the truth in a single look, and the public would forgive almost anything that happened after cut. That was his leverage, excellence as amnesty. But not every star had that shelter. The next legend was built by a studio machine that demanded miracles and handed out little pills when the body couldn't keep up. Judy Garland. She was a teenage miracle, paid in applause and sleeplessness. Call times carved up her days. Calories were policed like infractions, and pep arrived in tidy prescriptions that solved today's schedule and sold tomorrow's trouble. The smile on screen came from a body running on fumes. When the lights cooled, the toll kept collecting. Anxiety stalked the encore, and the system that manufactured delight also manufactured depletion. Audiences begged for just one more song. Her heart begged for a pause that never fit the calendar. She kept showing up, because prodigies are trained to. The courage was real, the charm effortless, but the costs were cumulative, and there was no line item on the studio ledger for a soul. What looked like resilience was often survival. Garland's magic felt honest even when the business around her wasn't. That's why the legend still vibrates. You can hear the effort under the melody. The tragedy isn't that she stumbled, it's that the system pretended the path was smooth. If Judy's battle was with a machine that ran on perfection, the next star faced a different grinder. Courts, depositions, and a culture happy to turn a woman's privacy into weekend entertainment. Clara Bow. She was joy in motion, the it girl who made the 20s feel louder, faster, and freer. Then trust snapped. A confidante flipped, and suddenly private scraps, letters, rumors, half-truths were hauled into rooms with cold lighting and stenographers who didn't care about context or kindness. The spectacle wanted a feast, not facts, and it invited the whole country to watch. Courtrooms grind people down in public. Every answer becomes a headline, every pause an insinuation, every blush a verdict. Bao had built a persona on freedom and fun. Depositions handcuffed both and turned spontaneity into evidence. Fans who came for sparkle got cross-examination, and the thrill curdled into voyeurism. Wins on paper didn't mend what the process shredded. Reputation returns by inches, if at all, and the machine prefers clean narratives over complicated recoveries. Studios count risk first. Compassion is an optional expense that rarely gets approved when columnists are circling. So she stepped back. It looked like disappearing, but it was really a reclamation, owning what remained by refusing to feed the circus one more scene. The silence wasn't defeat, it was a boundary drawn in permanent ink, a final editorial choice no lawyer could redline. From paper wars to knuckles, the next chapter shows how one violent night can reroute a life, rebrand a career, and put a permanent asterisk next to a name, whether the cameras are rolling or not. Are you enjoying this video? If you are, please do me a favor and hit the like button. Tom Neal. He came up the hard way, a working actor with momentum and a fuse too short for the rooms he entered. One jealous eruption, one brutal beating, and everything after that became a footnote to a single ugly night. In Hollywood, memory is elastic. When it snaps, it never returns to shape, and the tear is all anyone sees. Apologies don't suture a reputation. Casting directors fear chaos more than they love talent, and Neal's name started arriving with warnings attached. He wasn't merely a risk, he was the risk everyone remembered. The cautionary tale you whisper to junior producers when a meeting runs late. He tried to outrun it through smaller roles, fresh starts, carefully phrased interviews. But the industry stencil was set. Liability in bold, actor in italics. Each introduction carried the same preface, as if the past had co-signed his future before he could speak a word in his own defense. What made it cruel was the permanence. The room might forgive after a handshake, the press never did, and the archives certainly wouldn't. The incident metastasized into identity, propagating through profiles like a bad headline that keeps finding the front page. Which brings us to the other side of that collision. The polished star whose poise couldn't stop the story from sticking to his face, no matter how carefully he faced the camera. Franchot Tone. He had pedigree, diction, and a calm that read beautifully on camera. Then violence arrived without lines or lighting and left a mark no makeup could fully erase. Recovery patched the skin. It didn't edit the memory. From that day forward, audiences watched a survivor first and an actor second, no matter the role. Tone kept his posture quiet, dignified, unwilling to turn pain into performance. But celebrity files your history under always, and the incident replayed in every profile, in every whisper between publicists and columnists. Elegance can buffer a blow. It cannot delete a paragraph that editors find too clickable to cut. Studios learned to shoot around a shadow. Directors adjusted frames and expectations. Publicists massaged narratives, and Tone kept working as if immaculate craft might eventually outvote the gossip. It rarely does, but the attempt became its own kind of heroism, a daily refusal to be reduced to one scene. In private, he carried on. In public, he carried context. That's the unspoken cost of fame. You don't control which chapter the crowd rereads when your name appears. He handled it with a steadiness that didn't ask for applause and didn't waste time chasing it. At the center of both men's ruin stood a woman the tabloids tried to flatten into a trope. Her chapter is next, and it's far more complicated and far more human than the gossip ever allowed. Barbara Payton. She entered Hollywood like a spark in a dry forest, glamour that didn't wait for permission. The triangle with Tom Neal and Franchot Tone turned her life into a serialized cliffhanger, each week another photo, another rumor, another judgment passed by people who never met her. The camera adored her. The industry preferred her as a cautionary tale. Payton was punished for refusing to shrink, She didn't apologize on cue, didn't trade edge for etiquette, and the system built to manage, label, contain, called that trouble. Roles disappeared while demand for her face somehow grew. That's the arithmetic of scandal, where fame multiplies and opportunity divides. The press wrote her as the architect of chaos, but the casting calls told a more mercenary truth. Producers feasted on the headlines until the optics got pricey. Audiences weren't the only ones addicted to the spectacle. The business was too, right up to the minute it claimed the moral high ground and walked away. What gets lost in the noise is the person fighting to stay a person. Peyton kept trying. New projects, new starts, new cities, but reinvention is a luxury the tabloids rarely grant. Once the narrative hardens, compassion has to shout to be heard. She didn't vanish, she was pushed to the margins, then blamed for living there. Our next chapter flips the energy entirely. A woman who seized outrage like a microphone and turned censors into her street team. Mae West. They locked her up for a play, and she treated the mugshot like a poster. West understood the market better than her critics did. Scandal is just attention with better lighting. Every band became a billboard. Every pearl-clutching sermon sold more tickets to the sermon's target. She wrote her own lines and her own rules, which is why institutions tried to write hers for her. It didn't work. She packaged provocation as wit, style as sovereignty, and the public, tired of being told what to want, chose the woman who laughed at the referees. Got a favorite Mae West zinger? Comment below. Mae's real power wasn't boldness, it was direction. She didn't let the uproar control the story, she put it to work, marching outrage down Main Street with her name on the banner. That's why the fines felt like invoices and the scolds felt like unpaid interns. Of course there were costs. Doors close when gatekeepers feel mocked, and she paid those prices without flinching. But the ledger tilted her way because she converted resistance into equity, the oldest trick in entertainment, performed like a magic act with no trapdoor. If West surfed the wave, the next icon got dragged by the undertow. Genius kept him afloat. The current never stopped pulling. Charlie Chaplin. He was the world's most recognizable silhouette, and the world decided to read meaning into every step. Lawsuits, investigations, and a cultural chill turned the planet's warmest clown into a lightning rod. Victories in court didn't quiet the crowd, they just changed the headline's verbs. Chaplin fought back the only way he knew, with work that glowed from the inside out. The movies endured, the mood didn't. That's the penalty for being global. Your joys and your trials both scale, and there's nowhere small enough to hide when an era wants a symbol to scold. He wasn't undone, but he was encumbered. Every premiere arrived with baggage claim, a carousel of questions that had nothing to do with the frame and everything to do with the persona inhabiting it. Art can outlast a storm. It can't always keep your shoulders dry while it passes. What lingers is the split screen, a master crafting compassion on film while fielding suspicion off it. A man asked to be both timeless and tidy. He gave the first. The second was never his specialty. From a giant shouldering the world's gaze, we turn back to two legends who wrestled more private tempests. Battles that didn't make laws shake, but did make friends worry and directors hold their breath. Spencer Tracy. On set, he was a metronome. Off set, a tempest. He wrestled bottles, conscience, and faith with the same stubbornness he brought to a close-up. People around him learned to read the weather in his eyes and plan the day accordingly, knowing calm could crack without warning. The miracle was consistency under siege. He'd step into a scene and rip the air with one honest line, a precision that made directors exhale in relief. Then the door would close and the fog returned, quiet, heavy, and impossible to script. Tracy's struggle wasn't a tabloid circus so much as a siege that never lifted. He paid for brilliance in private currency, sleep surrendered, apologies offered, second chances spent like small change. The receipts didn't reach the trades, but the cost tallied all the same. What kept the myth intact was work ethic sharpened by guilt. He held himself to a standard harsher than any studio memo, as if enough perfect takes might settle a debt he couldn't name. Excellence became refuge and punishment at once. He never stopped being great, he just paid more for it than most, and the tab always arrived after the applause. Next comes the great profile, who tried to charm the fall on the way down, and discovered that charisma can't negotiate with gravity. John Barrymore. They called him the great profile. The Mirror called him something else. Grand gestures turned to self-parody between drinks, a prince cracking jokes at his own coronation. What began as celebration hardened into habit, and habit into the kind of gravity that drags every promise downhill. Friends tried to laugh the darkness away until the jokes stopped landing. There's a point where charm becomes a mask, and Barrymore crossed it in public, eyes bright with mischief that couldn't quite hide the fray at the edges. The crowd watched a man improvise an exit he couldn't find. He was too gifted to forget and too fragile to save. Every magnificent scene made the afterward feel sharper, like applause amplifying the silence that followed. Stardom can light the sky and still set the wings on fire. Work remained a lifeline, even as it exposed the strain. Lines that once floated now arrived with effort. Timing that once danced sometimes stumbled. He kept performing anyway, because to stop would be to admit the curtain had already fallen. Barrymore didn't just decline, he narrated it, half winking, half drowning. That's why his story lingers like a stage whisper, beautiful, ruined, unforgettable. And where he drifted, the next legend fought a different monster. Relief that turned into a chain you wear under your costume. Bela Lugosi. He terrified audiences by moving slowly and speaking softly, which is harder than it looks. Off-screen, pain was the louder thing, and the tidy prescriptions meant to quiet it became their own kind of noise. Relief turned routine. Routine hardened into a chain you wear under the costume. When the big studios cooled, smaller doors stayed open, the checks shrank, but the honesty grew. Roles that didn't pretend he was invincible, work that let the struggle show at the edges. He kept showing up because showing up was the part no one else could play for him. There's dignity in that grind. He didn't hide the fight. He tried to outact it, to pour the discipline he used on set into the mess that waited outside it. The cape was a prop, the resolve wasn't. Audiences felt that truth even when the budgets didn't. The fear he sold on screen became empathy off it, a quiet understanding that monsters are make-believe and pain is not. It's why his legend breathes instead of crumbling. Lugosi's last act wasn't triumph or defeat. It was persistence, unsentimental, unglamorous, stubborn as a heartbeat. Some careers end with fireworks. His kept a light on. W.C. Fields. He turned appetite into entertainment and sold the wink that made it go down easy. Water is for fish landed as a punchline because it was and wasn't. The crowd loved the rascal. The man lived with the invoice that always arrived after curtain. Branding a vice is a magician's trick with a trapdoor. The bit buys you freedom on set and debt off it, a loop that flatters the character while cornering the person. Over time, the act and the life fused until quitting felt like self-betrayal and continuing felt like slow motion. Fields kept the timing sharp even when the edges dulled. That's craft, not magic, but muscle memory and stubbornness, the refusal to let the audience see the wobble. He gave them laughter. He took the bill backstage. What saved him in the box office trapped him at home. When your signature is the thing that's hurting you, every improvement looks like treason to the brand you built. It's a box no contract can pry open. His legacy sits in that tension, joy and warning, charm and cost. The laugh lands, and then it echoes, and you hear the lesson he never said out loud. Some jokes are funnier when you know the price. The golden age glittered because it hid the mess. Strip away the posters and you find pills passed as pep. Love stories written in courtrooms, and charisma used like duct tape on lives coming apart. 14 stars, 14 proof points. Image is a costume, control is an illusion. If these stories changed how you see that era, say which one hit hardest, and which legend you'll never watch the same way again. If you've ever seen clips where the mask slips, drop them in the comments. The best ones might make the next episode.